our Facebook page. So finding us through our YouTube channel is a perfect place. So I'm glad that you're with us today. And we are digging into class number 5 in our study of the book Alchemy. Alchemy is a book by Paul Selig, author, who has just brought about some wonderful spiritual truths for our lives. We're going to dig into this chapter in just a moment. It's entitled Courage. So to prepare for our class session, what we would love to have you do is to take some deep breaths. We're going to release all the tension and distractions of this morning and just set our mind in the right and perfect consciousness. Let's do this by breathing in through our nose, holding for a brief moment, and then releasing out through our mouth. As we do, let's just push out all that stress. Breathe in a fresh new awareness of the divine presence and release out all that stale and old and all that stuff that's been distracting you and keeping you from a journey of achieving your highest and best. Join with me now. Let's breathe together. Breathe in. And release. Deep breath in. And release. Deep breath in. And release. And in this moment of silence, please set your intention for that which you desire to transpire in your life. Whisper that desire within. And so it is. Well, let's dig in today's class. I hope you have your note packet with you. Let me remind you that if you've not received a note packet, please reach out to me at revtpaul@aol.com. That's R-E-V as in Victor, T as in Timothy, P-A-U-L @aol.com. And I'll make sure that our registrar, Dr. David Carter, gets this note that you want to receive all these note packages prior to every class session. So look forward to them, and then as you download them or view them, you can also use them as a great study tool. So grab your pen and paper. Let's dig into this class entitled Courage. Now, so often we're predicting an outcome that's based on what we have known to be true in the past. You know, we're the kind of people that say, well, you know, it happened this way last year, it'll happen that way again. Or because so-and-so was sick in my family, I'll be sick too. Or last year I got a cold in January, this year I'll get a cold in January. You see, what happens is that small self, is what the author calls that ego within us, wants to get what it wants based on the ideas of what it thinks it should have. We live life from what we think should be, should have, should do. And it's all based on what we've been taught. So we begin to think, well, it should turn out this way. It should always be this way. And our life is filled with all of these shoulds. We want to release all those shoulds and set ourselves free to exciting new adventures. You know, this journey with God is full of infinite possibilities. So when we are limiting ourselves to what we think society's shoulds, culture's shoulds, what we've been taught shoulds happen, be, or do, transpire with our life, we're not open to the unlimited possibilities. There are all kinds of things that can, and directions that can unfold for your life if you are open to them. So what we want to do is start to release these limiting thoughts and begin to open ourselves up to the highest and best. That's the realm of infinite possibilities. Now, the author refers to a place called the upper room. It's not a physical place, but it's a place where the new is seen. New opportunities, infinite possibilities. This is in our consciousness. It is a vibratory state of mind, of thinking that we're in full alignment with all that is of the divine. It is truly this place of agreement where you're going to attract your true nature and all the aspects of your true nature. That true nature as being divine. So when we are moved up into this upper room, metaphorically, when our consciousness is rising into truly the level of Christ consciousness, when we are truly rising up to this enlightened state, it is there a change, a transformation in alchemy that happens within our lives. We are transformed from living in the realm of shoulds, or living in the realm of it's always going to be this way, We're living in the realm of sort of predicting the outcome based on what should have happened or what has happened in our past, to now living in the realm of infinite possibilities of exciting new opportunities are available to me. That the answer to our prayer may be manifested in a totally different way than what we have thought or what we've experienced previously. Let me tell you this, I know this for true, because over the 43 years of pastoral ministry of my life, sometimes, praying a prayer of faith and great expectation, I too want to add some predictability, as if, okay, God, I know that you're going to make a way, and it's probably going to be through our largest giver who's going to write a check. Yeah, that's probably going to be the way. And I'm sort of assuming that. And so I've sort of limited, and I needed to break through that limitation only to discover when I do, God provided miraculously in a way that I never thought of that. I never dreamed it would happen this way. I didn't predict it to happen, unfold this way. You see, I've moved into the realm of breaking through all the shoulds or the predictable or the things that we think and say, well, it's going to happen X, Y, and Z in that way. But allowing God's infinite possibilities to flow through our lives. Now, this happens when we really move into this upper room consciousness. The author refers to that, and you may remember this phrase, the upper room, in Acts chapter 1, where Jesus, as he departed from this world in the physical realm, invited the disciples to gather in an upper room, to wait in this upper room and to tarry there. To be in this upper room consciousness, now that's metaphorically speaking for each and every one of us today, that we're called to tarry and wait in this consciousness, this upper room way of thinking, this upper room awareness of the divine presence where there are no limitations. And as that scripture unfolds in the story of chapter Acts 1, it's telling us that as they gathered together in this upper room, and when they were all in one accord, in this upper room consciousness, they'd come into a sense of unity, of oneness with one another and with the divine. That's when the miracle of Pentecost and the birth of the teaching of Jesus being spread worldwide began to happen. How does it happen? When we move into this higher consciousness. How does the miraculous unfold for us? When we move into this awareness that eradicates all the limitations and the boundaries and the predictables that we've been living under. They're being shattered. All the shoulds are going away. That we're just open to saying, I want to be one with the divine nature, one with that true nature within me, one that says I am one with God and one with all things and all experiences and all people. And in that kind of consciousness, we open our door to this wonderful, miraculous spirit unfolding within our life. Now, when you know who you are actually aligning to a universal code. We become people who operate in love and know ourselves in love and will not deny anyone love when we know who we are. Well, you may say, well, I know who I am. I'm Paul Gretz, or I'm Ann, or Joan, or Susan, or Tom, or David, whatever it may be. That's why. Oh, no. We're learning who we truly are. Not the physical, but in the spiritual realm of truly who we are as a divine expression. When we know that, when we understand that we are this spiritual being in this world, we are a facet of the divine, meaning the divine being one big diamond, and all of us a unique expression of the reflection of light, that we're all a facet of this. And in this, we are all one together. When we understand that truly, we are then people who are aligned with this universal code of love. For God is love, and we're aligned with this. And we operate with love. We know ourselves in love, and we do not deny anyone the experience of love. And so we become people who live in the realm of unconditional love. We're going to talk more about that in just a moment. Let's just look at this. You will not deny that you are love, that you are divine, and you are the revelation of God, that you are the I am, when you truly get this, when you truly understand this. I've added a little side note here to our study from a book by Neville Goddard that I hope helps us understand what Paul Selig is addressing here in understanding our true self. Our true self is the I am. You know, we get this from the very story of Moses confronted by the burning bush. Moses is contemplating the call of God to return back to Egypt to help liberate his people. And again, he's in doubt and fear and questioning what authority, what honor, what strength, what name do I even go in? And that burning bush speaks and confirms with him that you move out and you live in and you are and you speak from the I am that I am. The name of God, I am. That is when we begin to own that name, that character, we begin to own the I am. Yes, I, this right here, this being, I am the divine. I'm a facet of the diamond. I'm not the total diamond. I'm a facet of it. I am the divine expression of God because I am one with God. You are God, you are God, you are God, you are God, I am God. We are all expressions of the divine. We are not the totality of God. That would be our arrogance to say, I am God and you are not. That would be some sort of separation thinking. But in our sense of oneness, we realize we are all an expression of the divine. We are all God. Carla has a comment.
I was talking with somebody about that the other day, and she was saying that she has a really hard time with the I am God concept, even though I love it, and that's what I think one of the most important things that I got out of the Bible is the I am that I am. But one of the things I got out of this book, and maybe later on in the chapters, is that we can also look at it as God is me. So if you have a hard time with I am God, I switch it sometimes to God is me. As you say, I am not the totality, but God is me, God is Paul, God is Brenda, God is Norma, and that God is each of us. And that helps me to extend grace and love and forgiveness to everybody more so, because I look at it as God is this person who just cut me off in traffic, just experiencing themselves in a different way, and perhaps for me to learn graciousness and forgiveness.
Right.
But anyway, I just wanted to add that to, if you're having a hard time with the I am God part, to flip it and say God is me, having an experience as this.
Wonderful. I appreciate that. Yes, I am the divine expressed as me. I am God expressed as me. God is expressing God's own self as me. When I understand that, I understand the true self that Paul Selig is addressing. I understand the divinity that Paul Selig is addressing. I understand who I am in relationship with God. And what we want to look at is this comment by Neville Goddard here that says, man is in the habit of thinking of God and not as God. Our problem is we think of God outside, but we don't think as God. That the I am is who I am, and I need to think as God, not thinking of God or about God or where God is or who God is, but knowing that I am. We're fearful of saying this lest anyone thinks that we're arrogant, and yet this is the only way that we will find God. Because quite often when you're saying, God out there, where's God? God out in space. Where? I don't know where. I can't find God out in space. God outside of my life. I can't find him. Someone help me find God outside of me. When Jesus said the kingdom of heaven is within, God is within, the only place you'll find God is within. So we go within. And yet we understand this from a, shall we say, a clouded perspective, because we've been taught so much about a concept of God outside of our life that people have a great challenge of understanding a God within. Yet we need to turn to Scripture. We find the Apostle Paul writing, and he says, I am crucified, meaning the small self, the ego dies out, and so the true self, the true awareness of who I am, rises within. I am crucified with Christ. I'm crucified with this Christ consciousness. Doesn't mean that I'm strapped to the cross and dying with Jesus. No, I am crucified. I die out to the self, and I am awakened to the full awareness. He says, yet I live, but it's the Christ consciousness that lives in me. It is the awareness of the divine that's alive within me. When I realize what is this life all about, this life force within me, it is God. I live and I breathe the divine. I am alive because of the God presence within me and within this body. The God presence that dwells, for the scripture calls us, you are the temple of the Lord, the dwelling place of the divine. Each one of us is a dwelling place of the divine. That dwelling within us is the I am. And we realize that we are part of this wonderful expression of God. So we think of God quite often in the third person. And we say, speaking of God, using he or she, some people may refer to, God, he is so great. And then in the second person, you may address, God, you are almighty. That's the second person. But we don't often think about addressing God in the first person, and that is the I am. God in me as me, almighty. God in me as me, almighty. So anytime you think of God in any tense other than the first person, what happens is you're entertaining an idol, no matter what you call it. Because the whole scripture verses, thou shalt have no other graven images, no idols before me. And that is any perspectives outside of understanding God within. Now, here's the crazy thing. We've created a religion in Christianity of God without. That one day we will go to heaven when Jesus said the kingdom of heaven is here and now. Wait a minute, how do we get that though? One day we'll go to heaven when it's here and now. Well, we've lost sight of what the here and now is all about. It's the divine within us. God present. You've been fully aware of this when you come to your true self. You have crucified the old self, that small self that the author refers to, that ego, and allowed yourself to be now seen through the Christ consciousness as this divine self, God within me. So we need to eradicate our languages and our forms of speaking about God, eradicate the language that we may use of thinking of God in a third person. God, he or she, is out there. Or in the second person, you, O God, I praise you. You, O God, are worthy. Or you, O God, are mighty. Now let's change that all and speak first and foremost, I am worthy. I am. The I am is God within me, expressed as me. And that is worthy. That is almighty. That is successful. That is prosperous. That is abundant. That is whole. So I want you to do something. Practice your I ams, the I am truths. Become comfortable with this. That the God in me that I'm speaking about, I am part of this divine. I am powerful. I am amazing. I am abundant. I am love. I am whole. That's what God is. And that's what's within you. You are the divine. You are the representation of the divine. So let's just go back. For all of our homemakers, we're going to do a simple illustration. You know that 9x13 cake you make? Yes. You mix up the batter, all the ingredients, the flour, the sugar, the cocoa, the whatever ingredients, the eggs, the milk, the mayonnaise, whatever you use in your recipe for your favorite cake. It's all stirred up together, right? You pour it into the pan and you bake it. When you slice a piece of that delicious cake you've made, every element of that cake is found in that piece. There's eggs, the flour, the mayonnaise, the cocoa, whatever, because you've mixed, it's all one. The batter became one, and that cake is one. But you've selected a piece and you take it out, and that piece is one with all the other pieces of cake. But you see yourself as this one. So this piece is expressing the whole cake, as itself. So you're a piece of cake, you're a piece of cake, I'm a piece of cake. We're expression of cake. And let's just rephrase that. You're a piece of God, I'm a piece of God. We're all a piece of God. We're all the expression because we've been created and in the likeness and in the image of God. All the ingredients of God are in this, are within you, just like that cake batter. And when you realize you're one with the divine, just like that eggs is part with the flour or the sugar and the cocoa or whatever you put in your chocolate cake to make it so delicious, it's all one, it's all mixed together, yet there's unique elements, but they're all blending together and they're baked together. And then when you take one slice, you taste all of the elements in unity and oneness. Do we understand that that's how we are in relationship with the divine? When we get that, we go, oh, I am. That's right. I am the divine. For I'm created in the likeness and in the image of. And all the ingredients of the divine are in this lovely piece of cake, are within us, we might say. So what we want to do is practice this spiritual work of being comfortable with the I am and removing the language about talking about God out there or God in the third person or God in the second person, but always God in the first person. So when we address the divine, we're owning the divine as we are being part of that divine and the divine part of us or expressed in us. Or let's just say remove the part and say fully us, okay? To realize the divine in another is to know it in yourself. For to see the divine in others, you've got to first see it in yourself, you know? It's difficult to acknowledge this divinity in someone else until you first begin within you. You have to see it and experience it first, and then you go, oh, I know what I see now. I see this love. I see this grace. I see this passion. I see this creativity. I see this power. I've seen it in me and I recognize it. I recognize it in you. But we've got to realize, first and foremost, the divinity within ourselves. And in realizing the divine in all things, you become aware that you're not separate from the source of all. When that piece of cake, a wonderful chocolate cake that you have used as an illustration, when it realizes that it's got all these wonderful ingredients in itself, it can also realize throughout the whole 9x13 cake, all those ingredients, the same ingredients are there. So when we use that illustration of our life, we realize there's no duality of a God outside. Why would we talk about a God in the third person? Why would we talk about God in the second person when God is within? And God is the I am. And so we express the I am. To speak in any other way is to create some sort of foreign concept that's not in line with anything Jesus taught or the spiritual pathway of understanding for our journey. Because we're speaking about, well, I'm separate from God. And everything Jesus is trying to teach is this wonderful oneness, this unity, this harmony, that you are one. I and the Father are one, Jesus said. When you see me, you see God. And that's exactly what Jesus is saying for each and every one of us. You and the divine source that we call God are one. I am one. And you and I are one. We're all in this understanding of the divine together. And so let's awaken to this. Let's move on up to this upper room. Let's go there to this consciousness and awareness within our life. Carla.
Another thing that I got out of the book, I'm not sure which chapter, but was that that helped me to understand that concept is that, do we think of God as just the God of this earth? Or is God the God of everything, all the planets, all the universe, all the universes? And therefore, if God is the God of everything and created everything, then God made everything from God's self. So it's not just God is me, but God is also the tree, and God is also the sun, and God is also the wind, and God is also that which I perceive as good and that which I perceive as not good, and how it all works together in order that we can experience everything in a greater way and to have greater understanding.
Beautiful. Thank you. Great explanation. I love that. Now, in knowing the true self, you will feel unity that is within this universe. And the author brings up an illustration as the raindrop feels united or part of the rain of the storm, or the beach puddle does not know itself separate from the ocean. These are illustrations of this consciousness of understanding a unity within the universe, as Carla so beautifully described for us. A oneness, that we are one with anything, everything, and everyone. So our work here on this earth is the dismantling of separation thinking, tearing that apart, breaking it down, unlearning it. That's right. This is actually a great challenge, but it's a challenge for our growth. And this is the alchemy. This is the transformation that we're called to do and to work through. This is the spiritual evolution that we need to experience within our life, where we are dismantling this very thought or consciousness or thinking that in some way we're separate from anyone, anything, or any experience, because all is God. And you and I are the divinity, expressions of the divine. Now, we're caught in this idea of separation, and we will always be looking then for God when we're at that place. Because again, when you believe or think or feel that God is separate from you, you're always going to be looking for where God is. People have a hard time saying, I can't find God. Oh, but God's right there within. Brenda has a comment.
God is always within us, even from the time we were born. We don't maybe recognize it until we're able to think. But I remember as a very small child, I had this feeling of well, it was God within, but I called it the Watcher, because I didn't know what to call it. And then as I had that with me until alchemy took place, until I had my spiritual awakening. And then it was integrated. There was no more in my brain the Watcher, because it had then become me.
Beautiful. I think we can all talk about some sort of transformation in our understanding, where we move from praying to a God outside of us to now claiming and affirming the God within. And what a big shift that is, because we feel so intimate, so connected with that divine presence, because that divine presence is us, God expressing as us. Now, when we're looking for God, that's really a difficult obstacle to overcome, because it becomes a blocking to our expression of unity. For God is here and in each and every one and everything. And when we get that, we're feeling this sense of unity. But when we think of God as out there somewhere else, we're having a hard time contemplating, how can I be one with you? I'm not even one with God. I'm not one with anything. We then feel our lives are so separate from everything. And we live, act, and create ideas, and how we move in this world. We live in a sense of, I'm me and I'm separate from you. And whatever I do has no impact upon you. Whatever you do has no impact upon me. We're not even related. We're not even interconnected in any way. And that separation consciousness or thinking has been the source of so many of the challenges in our world today. So the work that we love to do is eradicate or dismantle separation thinking. When we really embrace that, we begin to create an alchemy that spreads across the world, a transformation as people are awakened to this. Each life is an opportunity for the progression of the soul. But courage, and that's the name of this chapter, courage is needed to move forward in life. Courage to know yourself beyond yesterday's ideas, beyond all the shoulds or the choices of society, or to be afraid or angry, blame, or even to think anything being separate. We need to grasp the courage to move forward in each life. Now, do you notice the language the author is using? Each life, meaning more than one. As you live out your life throughout all of eternity, the gazillion, million, trillion, I don't know what number that describes the infinite moments of expression that your life will have. And each one is going to be part of the progression of your soul evolving, growing. But courage is needed. So let us grasp the courage here and now, right now in this moment, to say, I want to move forward. I would love in this lifetime to completely eradicate or dismantle any separation thinking, any thoughts of being separate. So we are relinquishing the idea of what should be, what outcome should be. And this is the first step in reknowing who we are, reacquainting ourselves with the true self. So the choice to move to this upper room, to this divine flow, this awareness, this consciousness, this higher vibration, requires a transition from what you thought you were to what you know you are now. Say it. I am. I am. I am. And then that is the God within you. Attach whatever praise or whatever adjective, whatever word you want to attach to the divinity that's within you. So too often in our in our religious world today, we are praising God outside. The words of our hymns, the songs and expressions of choruses sung in so many churches are an expression to a God outside. You, O God, are worthy, rather than I am, the God within me, worthy. So we like to just rein everything in, and let's let go of that second and third person languages that we may use in our hymnology and our lyrics, and let's change that, and let's move to the full awareness of the divine expression within. Now, when we deny God, what we're doing is we're actually claiming a thing in fear. When we claim God, you know what? There is no fear. So when we say, I am, we are actually claiming God, and you can't attach, I am afraid, because God is not afraid. So whatever you attach to the I am is what you're saying God is, because that's who you are. So you can't say, I am stupid, because God's not stupid. You can't say, I am forgetful, because God is not forgetful. You can't say, I am sick, because God is not sick. Okay? So what you're doing is shifting your consciousness to the divine awareness within you. And that awareness, that style of thinking, is going to transform your physical body, your physical experiences, your physical relationships. Everything is going to start to transform from this new form of consciousness, this new way of thinking. Because let's just talk about our bodies. We've had classes on how our biography affects our biology. Do you remember that? Where we talked about our stories. Oh, I'm so sick. I have diabetes. Oh, I am full of cancer. That's your story. That's your biography. You keep telling it over and over again. And it affects your biology. Every cell in your body is responding to the intelligence that you're speaking forward. I am sick. I am sick. Oh, that's right. Every cell says, that's right. We're all sick in this together, right? No. Every cell knows the process of healing. The intelligence within the body is amazing. So we give it free form as we express to say, we liberate it now to say, I am whole. And everybody says, oh, that's right. We're whole. That's right. Everyone act in wholeness. Let's collaborate together. Let's create this healing. Let's heal that wound. Let's heal this sickness. Let's correct this thing that may be going on within our body. So we begin from that wonderful consciousness of I am whole, and that transcends it creates a transformational experience through the whole body. Because when we say I am afraid, we're now assuming God is afraid or that fear is in our life. So let's start eradicating any fear from sickness, any experience, and anyone. We're not afraid of anything because we're claiming the divinity as our true self. God, I am. Now, our relationships with others are not to be in fear, but in the divine knowing that we're all one. So fear brings about thoughts of control, inequity, a desire to get one's own way. Isn't that true? When you're afraid of something, I need to control you, you know? When we're afraid of something, we want to say, I want to create unequal opportunities, inequality, injustice. And of course, when we're afraid of something, we go, I need to get my way because my way is right and I'm afraid I don't understand your way. But what we're called to live out is a love that is unconditional, that is fearless. And this unconditional love is sometimes the hardest to give because it requires our surrender of our own arrogance, surrender of our control, and the inequality of our own wishes. What we and how we think others think should be and live and what they should be doing, all this kind of stuff. We relinquish all that in unconditional love. I just love you. Not with some condition that you must do X, Y, and Z, or that you should be X, Y, and Z, or you should behave in a way, but it's unconditional. And that is fearless love. There's no fear than in loving that person that way. How someone ascends to this higher vibration is their business and it's not yours. I'm telling you this over and over again. I think life would have been so much easier if when they wrote the 10 Commandments, they started out with number 1 being simply mind your own business. Because I think we would have been a whole lot better in this world if everyone just worked on themselves and not worked on others. So how someone ascends to the higher vibration is their own business. It's not ours. And we must respect each other's journey, seeing others not as they look alike, but seeing their true self within them. So we're not seeing others from the physical, but we're looking deep into the soul and the spirit, for that's what unites us. Now, our bodies are not uniting us. These containers are separate, but what unites us is the divinity within us. So we're looking for the uniting factor. We're seeing the God within each and every one. So what happens is we claim in our heart for one another, you are in the upper room. I lift you to this upper room. I lift you because this is how I see you. In other words, I'm lifting you up into this higher room consciousness where we're all one. And no matter what your views are, no matter how you act, no matter how you look, whatever, I see us as all one. So I lift that person up to that place. But you cannot claim for another what they're not willing to receive, so I can't manipulate that person into receiving this upper room experience, this greater awareness. I can't manipulate them. I can't massage them. I can't try to force them. I can't punish them in some way to get them to think like I want them to think. It's free will and free choice. So just remember that if someone's not willing and ready to receive, that's okay. That's their journey. That's where they are. Let's remove this pressure that we have within our spiritual, religious world, saying you must think like I think. You must believe like I believe, or I will punish you, or I will cut you off, or I won't be in relationship with you. All right, Dr. David Carter has a comment.
So if the person is not willing or ready to be in that place of a higher consciousness, is it still our duty when we come in contact with them to call forth the good?
Oh, yes. I mean, that's how we help them along the way. Yes, I firmly believe we begin to call forth the good that we see. I see the God in you, even though they may not be the place. What are you talking about? There's no God in me. God's out there. God's somewhere in space. I'm so separate and removed from it. But as we speak, we call forth the good that we see, the God that we see in each one, helping them to go, wait a minute, you see God in me? Really? You keep saying God's in me? You're seeing that? And that helps one another to see and become more aware of the divinity within themselves. So we help each other along that pathway. Carla.
Excuse me. What I also see with that is, I like that he's reminding us that, again, that God is each of us, because I've tried to recognize that, not just to say to the other person, I'm calling forth the God in you, but to looking at the other person as though that God is them, and that they are having the right and perfect experience for them as God. And so that way I'm not shoulding them,
Right.
making it so they need to respond in a way that I believe they should. And also that at some point in this book he said the merit in any situation is what we can learn from it. So what I've been doing is, when I'm coming across a difficult person or situation, I'm first asking myself, what is it that I am supposed to be learning, or what can I be learning from this to help me evolve and grow and go further. And then the other thing too that struck me is this upper room thinking, is that for me to not think so much of upper room, because I kept wanting to make it a place, the upper room, thinking they went upstairs, but to realize there's sort of that veil between what I know or what I believe I think is true and that veil of what is actually real and known. And I think of that upper room as that state of mind that's in that upper realm of all possibility. And two, that when I put myself in that, I'm going to use again upper room consciousness, that state of all possibility, I am creating alchemy, because alchemy is the process of creation. And by the way I choose to perceive things, I am creating, and therefore creating alchemy. I hope that made sense.
Yes, wonderful. Great explanation. I appreciate it. That is so true what you just brought out. So many people see a metaphor and they take it literally, thinking, where's this upper room I need to go to? It's not a place. It's not a destination, as Carla so beautifully described. It's a consciousness. It's moving on up into this upper level of thinking, of enlightenment. Beautiful. I love that. Yes, and what we're doing is we're calling forth the good is, in essence, we're complimenting someone. That's all we're doing. There's no should. You should be this or should be that. It's simply, I already see it. You don't have to should it, because it's already there. So I see Carla's beautiful insight and a wisdom that she's imparting to us. I see that as God speaking to us in this moment. So what we do is we acknowledge that. And we want to say, Carla, that voice of God speaking through you today in explanation is beautiful. And we appreciate it. And we value it. So what we're doing is speaking more of that. The more that is that it highlights an awareness within the individual. Yes, Dr. David Carter has another comment.
I was just going to say that in one of Neville Goddard's lectures, he says, condemn no one, judge no one, because if God is all there is, and you believe that, then God is the only actor. So it doesn't matter what's going on in the world. Everything you see and experience by anybody, it's God.
Yes.
It's different levels of awareness, but it's still all God. So if you see everybody as God, then it changes your perspective of this person is doing something bad, this person is not working, they're lazy. If everything is God, God is the only actor, then pretty cut and dry.
And as Carla said, just briefly, let's pull all that together. Beautiful comments flowing through this class today. We don't judge the experience because it's God speaking to us, and it's a teaching opportunity, It's something beautiful that's being expressed that's touching everyone else. Robert, my partner, who passed away, he would walk into a store and have this huge bandage covering his head. And instantly, people would see this and it would evoke compassion. People would walk up and say, how are you doing? Are you okay? I'm praying for you. Or can I pray for you? Or what can I do for you? Can I help you? Suddenly the energy of compassion rose. I would be around him, and in the room I would just see compassion, lights of compassion going on all over again, all around. And I would say, this is God working through that which we may see and want to judge as a bandage and a wound and how horrific that is. But God, it being used so beautifully for lights of compassion to go on. I just saw compassion coming out of people and coming forward and being so kind and helpful that, maybe their day would have gone through and that compassion light within them might have not got turned on, But here was God doing something wonderful expressed as Robert, igniting the light of compassion within. Oh, compassion. Oh, I want to be kind. I want to be gentle. I want to be thinking of someone outside of myself and my own needs. I want to be caring. Wow, it was just beautiful. So yes, let's not judge anyone or any experience outside of it. It is God showing, teaching, revealing a pathway for us, for our own higher and best. Now, you can forgive while being in the upper room was kind of the discussion that the author was having with the spiritual guides. Well, I can forgive by being in the upper room. How does that work? Because if I go into higher consciousness and I haven't forgiven, how does that work? Because this higher consciousness or this awareness enables you to forgive easier. Okay, so as we move up to this understanding of what God is, that God is love, and we move up, I can forgive as I've moved into this realm of higher thinking. But if you have a kernel of hate in your body, that kernel can grow in different ways, and what you hate is going to hate you back, and what you damn will damn you back. So what you have to do is relinquish this hate, this anger, and you must be delivered from this fear that masks itself as self-righteousness, and begin by saying, I will not allow myself to know myself or anyone or anything in fear, because hate is simply grounded in fear. And when we remove fear, we remove hate. So as we're moving into this higher consciousness, it enables us to remove the fear and remove the hate, the anger, all these kind of things. They're going to all fall away as you begin to move into the higher realm of thinking. Okay, Dr. David Carter has a question or comment.
Okay, so self-righteousness is not fear so much as it's the ego?
Yes.
Small self responding.
Right. Where we think our own self-thought and way is the highest and best versus the way of God. Okay? So now if you are only tolerating people, and I hear this, let's learn to tolerate one another. When we're tolerating people, you are stuck in the idea of who they are. You don't see them as God. You don't see them as divine. You don't see their true self. I got to tolerate that person and their behavior. I have to tolerate that person and their outlook. Okay? Dr. Carter.
There used to be an advertisement on TV about teaching tolerance, and you would see signs everywhere. And my take on that has always been, instead of teaching tolerance, because you're forcing me, and I'm going to push back from that. But if you try to get me to look at it from a standpoint of celebrating differences, to me that's an entirely different and positive spin on this situation.
Right.
Versus forcing me to tolerate somebody.
Because we've kind of in our language formed a concept around the word tolerate as I have to put up with. So tolerating is not really very loving. It's like, okay, I'll tolerate this. I'll put up with this. But it's not really a sense of being one with it or feeling a sense of connection with it. But what we want to do is we need to move beyond tolerating to loving. And when you see and understand one another as divine expressions, not seeing what they do, what they say, how they believe, but seeing the God within. Carla.
I was going to say, I really like that point, Dr. David, and also that word accept, too, because it's like accept we're doing something we didn't want to. But I like that, what you're saying, celebrate, and also like looking for the good, just, looking for the good in things and everyone, and that what can we learn from, too, and celebrate that. So I really like your point. Thank you.
Beautiful. Excellent. I love all the interaction today. Great. I love it. So just wave those hands up and interrupt, because of the discussion we're learning together, and everyone's adding so much good insight and clarity to the teaching. I love it. Now, forgiveness is simply re-knowing. Is the past changed? Yes. In the divine understanding, it is reknown. It's seen in a new way. The shoulds disappear because shoulds don't abide in the upper room. So they dissipate, and we begin to see every experience from a different perspective. We see that one who has hurt us as a child of God. We see them as divine. We see them as they're learning experiences, as they're evolving. We see them with love and great compassion, and we re-know the experience. And we do it with great compassion and love versus feeling the sense of victimhood and being hurt by the experience. Now, your level of alignment with the divine, will always be noticed, and it will always be known through the encounters you have with others and through the fabric of the world you see, and how you see it. Because there's that passage, they'll know you're Christians, they'll know your Christ consciousness, they'll know you're Christ-like, which is Christ consciousness, by your actions, by the love that you share. So your level of alignment will always be known in the world and experienced by how you perceive, how you encounter others around you, how you interact with others, how you love one another, is really going to describe and reveal your level of alignment with the divine. So when we think, oh wow, I'm really aligned, I've arrived. I'm in the upper room. I've gone up so high, yeah, I'm above all the rest. We kind of get a spiritual attitude and arrogance that comes into our lives. But you know what? That alignment is going to be seen by how you love. And sometimes this spiritual arrogance can be a roadblock to us truly loving with a heart of compassion. If you cannot see your neighbor as his or true self, if you deny the love of God in anyone or for anyone, you are out of alignment. So if you're wondering, am I in aligned with the divine? Am I truly one with this? Let me ask myself, how do I see my neighbor? And am I in any way denying love to them or for them? This is the evidence of our level of alignment. The passage of Scripture says, "Beloved, let us love one another, for love is of God." For love is of God. So when we understand that, what we're doing is loving one another is being God. Loving one another is being our true self. Loving one another is having the courage to acknowledge, this is who I am. I am the divine expressed as me. Let's grasp that courage. Let's get out there and let's just be courageous in our love. I'm going to love, 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 and I'm not going to tolerate. I'm going to see the good. I'm going to see the divinity within everyone and just to express that love in a sense of greater awareness of being one. One with God, one with all, one with everything, one with everyone. All right, thanks for joining us for class. Oh, do we have a comment over here? Yes, Dr. David Carter.
Okay, so these guides, you can call them guides, or I like to think of them as beings who are on a much higher level of consciousness than us, but they remain to help the race. I kind of believe that, because it makes sense to me. So, but they say throughout the books that if you're not ready, it's okay. So whether you're ready or not, or let's just say you are ready, and there are times because we're learning and growing when we're way out of alignment. What do they do? Do they affirm for us what's true that help us kind of nudge us back into the path that we were going on? Does that make sense?
Yes, because don't we not feel these moments of conviction, moments of spiritual guidance that calling us to say, ooh, I was out of line there. That was not very good. Oh, I'm embarrassed. Did I say that? Did I really express that? I think I know a better way. I know a more excellent way. And you feel the sense of that voice of conviction, that voice of higher knowing within you, that's already within you. So I don't see the guides necessarily as beings, as physical things,
Right.
as much as consciousness, because consciousness, thought is floating everywhere around us, and conviction comes across us, might say, as in our awareness, like a wave, like, ooh, that wasn't very good. I wasn't very loving there, was I? Ooh, shoot. I need to realign. I need to correct that. So yes.
So anytime we judge something, we're out of alignment if we judge it.
With yes, in a sense of condemning.
It should be.
Yes, it should be this. In other words, you should know better. Why are I'm condemning you with this.
Okay, I think I've made a lot of improvement, but obviously I have a ways to go. I saw something and I thought, that should be clean. And then the next thought was, well, if you don't have anything good to say, just keep your mouth closed, because here you are judging it. But it did need to be clean. No, I'm serious.
In your world, it needed to be clean, and someone else's, they're not at that level, okay? All right, so we're all wanting everyone to be on our same level of understanding because we think our level of understanding, of course, is the best. That's our small self. That's our ego, we're saying. Y'all need to live life like I live life, right? Because I live it the best, it's our small self. But when we begin to release and we say, okay, you're on that journey, and you're on that journey, and your journey is different than mine, and, who knows, in your past life, maybe you weren't so clean in your past life, but you learned something. So allow someone else to be on their journey for them to learn in their time, So go ahead.
Okay. But can you see it? Because it's right there in your face. Can you see it and have the thought, well, this needs to be clean, and then you just clean it?
Yeah. Okay.
But you see in that moment, don't you?
I'd like it if it were cleaner. I would like it better if it were cleaner.
But that's
So,
all I'm saying, that it should be
You
clean.
can clean it yourself. You say, let's say you're in the kitchen and there's some dirty dishes, and you say they should be cleaned, and someone has not cleaned them. You can be an example by cleaning them, okay, and showing someone a higher way, if you might say, of living, where you feel this is maybe a higher way. But we're not here to condemn or to judge the person because they didn't, okay? Because they just haven't evolved to that place. Doesn't mean that you're better than that. Right. It just means that they're on their journey too. And just know that as you condemn others, someone is condemning you, because someone may be looking down on you and saying, but you're doing this and you're doing that because my way is better than your way, So it just goes out. Condemnation breeds condemnation, and it goes in a cycle. So let's just stop. There is no condemnation.
But is there condemnation just because you see it, and for you it needs to be clean, and you just decide to clean it?
Right, because you think your way is better. So we got to let go of that.
But I'm not.
Okay. Yes. I'll come back to that. Carla.
I think it's good to know or to remember that they may be needing to learn something, but for me, the way I'm trying to getting out of the book again and trying to focus on things is realizing that what again am I supposed to learn from this? Because I'm like you too. I look at it and go, that should be done. But then I go, okay, what am I supposed to learn from this? Maybe to let go. I don't know. For me, I'm just saying. But the other thing is then, okay, then I have free will, so I can choose to either do it myself or I can choose not to
And walk away.
And walk away. So again, I'm trying to look at things like what can I learn from it,
right. And
I hope it's okay if I say this too, because you mentioned about the beings. Are they there for us? And if we're not getting it or we're not in alignment, what do they do? And like you, Dr. Paul, I'm not seeing them as physical beings, but I am seeing it as infinite intelligence.
Yeah.
And individuations of infinite intelligence that are somewhere at a level higher than me, not quite as high, so whatever. And I just wanted to say for anybody else who's listening to the class that if you're having a hard time understanding, to maybe give it a second chance and read it again. And the other thing is that I've read a lot of other people who are reading the book are having their lives changed simply by the frequency and the vibration,
Yeah.
hearing the words and in reading the words. So if it's not quite all making sense yet, give it another chance, because the beings that we just mentioned, or consciousness, I think meets us at our level. And so whatever level we're at and whatever level we're ready to receive it at,
Right.
is the level that we will. And I've noticed just in reading it numerous times, I keep receiving more and more, and I love that.
Because you're going up in levels.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that it's going to meet us at wherever we're at. And when I read it, I set the intention to get out of it whatever I can, and to try to keep my mind open and not prejudge, not should anything,
Right.
but to just keep open.
So let me go back to your statement, David. Is I have a friend, I'm going to speak from this perspective, that judges her family's home, her son's home. She goes to visit her son, and the house is a mess, okay? There's just neighborhood kids coming and going, and there's just so much activity, and there's all these people hanging out in the living room, and who are these people? And you got neighbors hanging over your house, and they're having lunch with you, and they're eating with you, and I just can't stand how filthy this house is, because there's just so many people coming and going, and kids and going in. They should clean their house, okay? So that should of what that person thinks should be right for her son hinders her, and she's like, I don't want to go there. I don't want to go to that house. I don't want to be there. It's just too many people. It's too noisy, too neighbor kids, too many children running in and out. There's dogs barking. It's just all that kind of stuff that's going on. But then when you stop and you say, wait a minute, what's going on in that house? There's lots of love. The neighbors feel comfortable popping in and sitting down and having lunch with one another. Neighborhood kids are there, and my son's kids, or her son's kids, are playing with, the neighbors. There's just, suddenly you shift looking from this house should be cleaned to what's going on here. This is incredible love, and I should be more loving, is kind of what happens. That the should became of our thinking, and our condemnation became a trigger point to say, wait a minute, what really needs to happen in my life? So this person was shoulding someone else, and the should came back on them, like, wait a minute, I realize I need to love and let go of this, because I'm allowing this dirty house and all this activity to keep me from coming and visiting my own family and loving my own family. And I'm the one who's, needs to learn. Yes, Carla,
I'm sorry
great.
to keep interjecting.
No, I love it.
I love this book and I love this chapter.
Yeah.
One of the things I got out of it too was that in love there should be no should.
Right.
It is want to, not should. And being with my family recently too, and thinking and remembering that helped me a lot with doing things for my family. Is saying I love them, so I want to do this, not that I should do this.
Right.
And could you not also say, as you observe whatever it is, can you say this needs to be cleaned? So I'll clean it.
Yeah, that's true. And if it bothers you, do it. If it doesn't, because obviously it doesn't bother somebody else.
Right.
But then you want to guilt them because you want to, I want that to bother you as much as it bothers me. So if we let it go and we just say, okay, I will tidy up.
I want this clean, and I want to clean it out of love.
Yes. And so out of love,
So I want to clean it.
and you know what? Then by your example, I think people say, oh, it looks nice and tidy, looks nice and clean. You can teach, you can model, you can do all those kind of things. But we want to remove the judgments and the condemnations. And I love it, the I want to's instead of
Seems to me,
shoulds.
if it's your house and you want it clean, you clean it.
Right.
But if you're going to your son's house or
Yeah.
somebody else's house and it's not clean, I think you have to accept them where they are
Absolutely.
and just be comfortable that you're with them and enjoy the visit.
I'm with you.
I will tell you this. Wow, as a pastor, you felt for years in my fundamentalist upbringing responsible for everyone's spiritual life and responsible, like, you should, and I got to get you into heaven. I got to find a way to get you into heaven. I got to shake you up and get you ready. And I really feel like, I'm a failure if I didn't wake you up to, what you should be doing, And when you come to this wonderful understanding that everyone's on their own journey, and for me in particular, the understanding that for me and my belief that there's more than one journey for everyone in this eternity of life that we're living, that's millions of some years, that means, oh wow, they're going to be learning through each experience. You know, it's kind of like the teacher who says in first grade, you should understand algebra because there's the only class you're going to have is this first grade. And then you realize, oh no, there's 12 years of study and there's college. I don't need you to learn algebra in first grade, or you don't need to learn quantum physics. Let's just stick with run, Dick, run, Jane, run. You know, let's just get some of the basics down, because there's another year called second grade and another year called third grade and another and another and another. And so when we do that, releases the stress and pressure to say, allow everyone to live their life, and what they're going through is there for a reason. And there's a reason why they're going through. And I'm going through everything in my own life for a reason. So I want to focus on my own life and evolving my light and love to the highest level I can, and knowing that that has the influence, and I'm not responsible, and I don't have to force you, I don't have to manipulate you, I don't have to hold a gun to your head to say, you got to get ready. You'll evolve on your own time. And we allow everybody to evolve on their own time. And that's okay. Wow. That's a big shift. All right. Any other questions or thoughts or comments? Excellent class. Well, one more. Okay. Good.
When it comes to your family, I think usually that's the toughest one.
Right.
To,
when it comes to family.
And allow people to do, to be on their own journey. But let's just say you're visiting your kids and your grandchildren, and you notice that there's a serious health issue brewing for one of the grandchildren. And there's a lot of things going on in the household. There's a lot of stress. And so this particular young child responds by eating. So you want to approach your kids not from a judgment standpoint, but
right.
How do you say it in a way that they don't feel they're being judged, that this child needs to be in counseling?
Right.
But the parents are going through a divorce, and it's just stress. And this little girl, her response is, I eat. And she said, I eat when I'm sad, I eat when I'm upset. And so, how do you talk to the parents in a way that
the scripture says, spare the rod and spoil the child. The rod is the rod of instruction. So just because what we want to do is offer instruction in love, guidance, direction, in all ways. That's not what we're saying don't do. We're saying continue to do. But we do it not from the perspective of judgment and condemnation. You're bad, and I'm going to tell you what's right. But we're also just helping to bring light to what might be health and wholeness for that child and for the whole family unit as well. So there's nothing wrong with instruction as long as it's given, we call it constructive criticism, that is constructive and that it is building up and edifying, not tearing down and not condemning or judgmental.
But if you have to walk on eggshells around the parent, and anything you say automatically they're on the defensive, it makes it difficult, to even say something loving, because immediately they're on the defensive, and
And again, it's their journey. I mean, we want so badly to help our children, help others, help the world around us. We want to fix them, don't we? Yes. We want to do, and we have to let them make their own mistakes.
Okay, but at the expense of the health of the child?
Well, I mean, are you going to, you certainly can offer insight and instruction, with that, but you can't be condemning.
No, not right. Condemning. But it's just anything you say is, just because
go back to loving. Yeah, just keep cycling back. I'm going to love, I'm going to love, I'm going to love. And you may not be able to walk in the door and say, I've got instruction for you and we're going to make these changes today. It may be a loving journey that takes years of being a presence of love and support and encouragement in the right pathway. But know that that soul is evolving, And that soul in its evolution is going to make mistakes that will impact others. I mean, my soul is evolving, and I'm a parent, and I wasn't the perfect parent. I wish I had been. I wish I'd known everything I know today when I was 26, but I didn't. But it was part of my evolution. And some of the mistakes I made did impact my children. Yes. But those mistakes are also evolutionary opportunities for them to work through. My parents weren't perfect parents. They made mistakes. And I'm the product of some of their mistakes. But some of that mistakes that were made were part of my evolution process. So again, it's about allowing things to evolve in a loving way with offering instruction. Yes, Carla.
Sometimes it's hard for me to know what's the best thing, and so one of the things I got on one of the books, I don't remember which one, but is to ask myself, what would love do?
Right.
And sometimes love is doing what I can, and having to have the courage to do what I can, but also love is also knowing when I need to stop, when I can't do something, when I have to let the other person be on their journey, and knowing that it's possible that whatever journey they're on is part of the template or the experience that they determined that they needed to have. And
Right.
that they are experiencing themselves as God, and that it's the right, perfect experience for them too. I'll do what I can as far as my love will go, but also that I need to know from the standpoint of when does love let go, and let the God in them be God,
Right.
so to speak.
Okay, so I want to respond to that. I'm with
Yeah.
you 100%. But here's an irony. Okay, every adult in the state of Georgia, if you're an adult and if you're of sound mind, you are mandatory reporter. So if you see child abuse, you really are mandated to report it. So when you see this parent acting in a way that is the state considers abusive towards that child, you're making a judgment call right then and there. So how is that really different than a situation where you see your grandchild in crisis and you need to lovingly intervene? What is the difference? Do you know what I'm saying?
There is no difference, because what you're saying, both things summed up in lovingly. And Carla said it, what would love do? So we're doing the right things in love, not in judgment, not in condemnation, and we're doing things through a loving context. Now just know that not everything's going to go the way we want it to go or the way we want to fix it, and we have to allow that to happen too, because that's part of everybody's individual journey. But we're always going to respond from what would love do. I love that. That's great.
So you can make a loving judgment.
I think you do as much as you can in love and courage. Do as much as you can, because it sometimes takes courage to say these things to somebody when you're when you have to be on eggshells, right? Do as much as you can in love and courage, to the point that you can't do anything else.
Right. Okay. But
And when they don't do it, when they don't follow your rules, still love them.
Right. Okay.
So, we want people we want to fix them. We want them to get the way. And when they don't, we just still love. We still love. That's part, but we've done our part of offering instruction or insight. We've done what we may feel is the loving thing, and we still love.
Okay, but back to the mandatory reporting. At the moment that you see it, you're making a judgment call. I don't know how else you can say that, because you are in that moment.
It's a judgment of love.
Right, that's why I said
it's a love judgment versus a negative condemning judgment. Okay. There's a difference level.
And there's an observation that's different than a judgment.
Right.
Observations, yeah.
But I think it's a loving judgment call when you happen.
Mandatory rules are made by the state.
Right.
They don't have anything to do with spiritual approach.
Yeah.
But it does impact you when you see okay, so you say, well, I'm just going to ignore whatever the human laws say because I'm a spiritual person, okay? And you see child abuse taking place, you can either ignore it or you can respond, and then you choose how you respond.
And all
Because I
things.
think you still, at some point,
Yeah.
your spirituality still has to meld with and mix with and integrate into life, because you still are experiencing life. You're still living life. You're just looking at it from a higher consciousness. But I would think that your higher consciousness would also spur you to act in some way, loving,
Right.
but to
Key word.
some loving action has to take place.
Carla.
So the other thing is to go back to that upper room consciousness and to keep in mind alchemy and how we choose to perceive things. And so I've had a similar situation. I'll tell you about it later.
Okay.
But is that for us to look at, you know, what we can learn out of what's the good, and also to see it, just like you call forth in prayer treatment, to see it as perfected, right? And to kind of go into that and do that as our alchemy that we're learning in this class. Because sometimes there's only so much we can do in the physical.
Right.
And we have to go to that upper room to do more. So let's talk later.
Okay.
Excellent. All right, let's conclude this class. For those of you who are joining us through YouTube, we're so glad that you've joined us and been part of this discussion. Unfortunately, because we're on YouTube only, we don't have a chance to hear your takeaways, but we always appreciate you being part of the classes with us. We'll look forward to seeing you next week, again at 10:30, hopefully through Facebook. We'll have our technical difficulties corrected, and we'll look forward to you joining us there. God bless you. Have a great week.